Our speaker tonight, Travis Davis, has written a number of books. He's here tonight to talk about Flames of Deception, but I'm sure he'll be mentioning other books. And he has special insights. He was an Army scout for 20 years, the U.S. Army, and he's done a lot of research and a lot of subjects. He's what I call a Renaissance man. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce Travis Davis.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. I think I'm more of a late bloomer than probably anything. So my name is Travis Davis. I am the author of Flames of Deception and my newest release, which came out on the 9th of May, called Cobalt. So tonight I'm going to kind of talk about the books. You can ask questions, the process, anything that you come up with. Just let me know, and I'll more than likely entertain it. So a little bit about me. So I'm an Air Force brat. I spent the first, about 6th grade in four different cities and states and countries. I lived in Arkansas, Spain, and California. And then when my dad retired, we went back to Arkansas, where I finished up my schooling. I was a Army vet. I am what they call a Cav Scout. At the time, I was an Armored Reconnaissance Specialist. And what I did predominantly when I was in Europe is I would guard the East-West German border, or the Czech-West German border. So I got to see firsthand the oppression of communism that it has on its citizens. And then it's always kind of stuck in my mind about the things that I saw during those missions or patrols that we did. And then I spent some time at Fort Knox and some other places. But I really enjoyed the Army. And to me, it gave me the ability to learn things that I wouldn't have learned before, and now to use those in my creativity when I write books and things. So it was definitely a benefit for me. I lived in Allen 27 years. My wife and I, and we remember the four-way stop signs underneath McDermott and Main and Bethany, Main and 75 and Bethany and 75. So we've been here a long time in the same house, which is kind of unusual here in Allen. When I got out of the Army, I'd had no viable skill other than knowing reconnaissance. So I kind of reinvented myself. This is the second reinvention of myself. And I got into technology, and I kind of grasped it very quickly. And I worked at, if you guys remember the company EDS, I worked there for a bit. I've worked at Microsoft, Altiris, Symantec, Numara, BMC, Dell, and Tanium. And it was around the infrastructure part, security, and things. So that's what I kind of did for the last few years. I retired in August, last August. And in January, I was bored. So now I am a special needs school bus monitor for Allen ISD. So I, hanging out with those little kiddos and stuff, I really enjoy that. Been married for 36 years. I have 2 daughters, a son, and 7 grandkids. My daughters live in Arkansas, and my son lives in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area. And my grandkids live all in Arkansas. And I started my first novel in March of 2022, which was Flames of Deception. So I'd never written a book before. I was used to tech edit for Q Publishing on the technical series for Microsoft MCSE, but I never wrote a book, the entire book. I did help write a chapter of one book. So, why did I start writing? And I like to say, ideas come at the strangest places and the strangest times. I was actually, I remember the date, it was the 1st of March. I was in a business meeting, and you ever been in a business meeting where you're like, okay, and you start drifting off, and I started having this idea, and I was like, darn. So it started really coming in just sheer volume. So I got a break from the meeting. I called my old platoon leader in the Army. I've known since he was a first lieutenant, and I still know, we're still friends today. He's a colonel, he retired a few years ago, Scott Bertinetti. And I said, hey, I want to run this premise by you for a book idea I have. And he's got his doctorate in military history, assistant commandant at the Army War College. So I ran it by him. He goes, that's a really good premise. So I took that for him to tell me that I need to write the book. So I got home that night and started writing the book. and I finished the book in 6 weeks. And I knew that I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about publishing, writing a book, authoring, nothing. So, I had a podcast. I have a podcast that I do that I interview authors, because what's a better way of learning something from somebody who's already done it? So I now have a podcast. I interview authors, and then I'm interviewed on other podcasts also. So again, idea just comes up and boom, and my wife will say, where do you get these ideas? I don't know. They just pop in my head and I just write it out till they're done. Now my books, so Flames of Deception is the first one. You have to love technology. I mean, that didn't take me long to do that. So a little bit about Flames of Deception. I'm going to kind of in depth about it. It takes place in the near future, 2027 or so. And the locations that it takes place of are in Northern Virginia, Russia, and China. And you're going, well, so, why Northern Virginia? A lot of the things that are in the book have to do with satellite and intelligence and things, and Northern Virginia is probably the epicenter for that in the United States. So what happens is basically that Russia has known for years about an eventuality that's going to happen to them. And so they've been deceiving the world for 25 years. And an imagery analyst at the National Geospatial Agency detects it. Doesn't know. He doesn't know about wells and oil fields and things. He doesn't know. So he calls somebody else to help him in there. He does a lot of research. But the activity is really strange in what it's doing, because it shouldn't happen. And Russia tries to deceive the world about what's really going on. So, and all the places in my books, all my books, if you can go to actually every place in that book and visit the actual location, whether it's a city, whether it's a hotel, whether it's an oil refinery or anything, you can actually visit all of those. Or a brewery in Northern Virginia. And again, it's detected by a geospatial analyst, right? He's just doing his job. A lot of stuff is just found out by happenstance. That was his area of concern, so yet he's taking it and looking at it. Then what happens, because it is so unbelievable that they think that's what's happening, but they don't know, and they can't actually determine that based on imagery. So they have to send a team into Russia. Now, what a better team to send into Russia than the geospatial imagery analyst that detected it. He has Army experience. He's worked with special forces and stuff. So they go in and they do a clandestine operation in Russia. And they travel all throughout Russia trying to determine what is going on, because the United States can't make the wrong move, nor can the alliance of India, Russia, and China make the wrong move. So it's a top secret operation that takes place. Now, at the same time, all of this is going on, that they don't know if it's connected or not, is that China, Russia, and India are moving their forces to locations that are pivotal and strategic choke points for petroleum, the movement of oil around the world, whether they're sea or land. And they don't know why, because there's never been any provocation for them to be moving their troops. And it's happening all at the same time. And then at the same time as what's going on here, because we have bought so much of our technology from the green energy field from China, that they're actually launching cyber attacks, directed cyber attacks against the United States. So you have troop movements around the world. You have Russia deceiving the world something's going on in their oil fields. And now you have cyber attacks directed against the United States that are not picked up at all on how the Chinese and North Koreans coded the software. It can't be detected. So it's very interesting what's going on, and nothing is coming together right now. But why? That's the book tries to figure out. Why is the deception? Why is the troop movements? They don't even know there's cyber attacks happening because they're like minutes at a time and random. But the Chinese can direct them and length of time and location. So really, what's going on? They have to figure out what's going on, because the wrong move could determine and set off World War III. So it's up to Tex, Will, and Kim to find out. So Tex is Will and Kim's boss. Will is the analyst, and Kim is the analyst that detected what's going on in the oil fields. So what I did out of this book is I created a team. And the team is called Team Texarkana, and I explain why the name Texarkana in the book. And it's kind of interesting how they come up with the name, and that is Latin for to serve the nation. Little logo we came up with, but that's Flames of Deception. That's the first novel, and it took me 6 weeks to write. It's about a 6 month to 8 month process. Normally, when you get the book out to the publisher, because you have to publish it, you have to edit, you have to do a lot of different things to the book. So it's about a 6 or 8 month project, and then they schedule them out in advance from a PR perspective. So that was Flames of Deception. Now this is the new book, Cobalt: Rise and Fall of the Great Reset. So that is Cobalt. Now I have to tell everybody, all my books are fiction. When I do book signings and everything, I start talking about the book, they're like, is that real? It's all fiction. It could be based on what I perceive current events are, or where they'll go, but they're all fiction. Now this, again, it takes place in the very near future. Now, the good thing about the books are that you don't have to read Flames of Deception to know what's going on in Cobalt. They're independent and stand alone. So there's not like a series you've got to read 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or whatever. They're independently books by themselves. Now, again, this takes place in Northern Virginia, but this time Italy. And I said, man, where not a better place in Italy than Lake Como? Because who would think something's going on in Lake Como? You know, just a beautiful place. China and the Gobi Desert. So all these things that I kind of, locations, I actually do a lot of research on the location. And I try to find out, for example, the Gobi Desert, does China have military training areas there? And so I do a lot of digging to find out. So I want it to be factual from perspective of where things are. So this takes place in the Gobi Desert. Now, in the first part of the book, China discovers a rare form of cobalt in the DR Congo. And as we all know, that probably 80 to 75% of all the cobalt mined in the world comes from the Congo. But this is a unique cobalt because it didn't originate on the planet Earth. It originated in the solar system, the Big Bang or whatever, and made its way here, and they discovered it because it has some special properties. But it's still cobalt from a molecular structure. It just has some different things. So that's what they find. And there's a group called the World Revolutionary Group, right? The Energy Group. So this is a bunch of folks that get together from either climate zealots, billionaires, philanthropists, and their goal, what they state as their goal, is to help the world with climate change. Make sure everything's taken care of. But the leader of the group, Klaus Berger, has other plans. He's basically a psychopath, but he's a billionaire. So, we'll figure. So that group, really is the nucleus of the book with rogue Chinese military and political leaders. People that are disenfranchised with how China is going about, not because they're going from a capitalist society, but what they're doing because they want to control China, and they're going to do this based on that cobalt that they found in the Congo, and they're working in cahoots with the World Energy Revolutionary Group. So it's all part of a bigger plan that's been in the works for years, decades. Well, they just want to create chaos, right? In the name of climate change. They want to upheaval in the world. They want to go ahead and, all the norms that you think of now, kind of put them to the side, and then start controlling the population. For example, if I had an electric car and I lived in California, and the Chinese, whoever said, you know what? You can drive your car Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to 4. And you only can go within this certain radius, even if your car is fully charged, because they have the software, they make a lot of the components. So this is how they're going to start to control folks in the book. Now, using that cobalt that they find in the Congo, China's mission, or these rogue Chinese leaders, is to change the way that modern land warfare is fought forever. This cobalt is so pivotal in what they want to do to be able to accomplish their mission that, they are putting a lot of effort in here. And the Chinese leaders of the country don't even know that they're doing it. These are just rogue group of folks that have a lot of power and able to do that. So you got to follow Mary. So Mary is a new character. She is tough. She's a CIA agent, and then Team Texarkana. And now Team Texarkana actually has another member called Lucy. Lucy is in the first book, Flames of Deception, and she is a Chinese that is brilliant. Photographic memory, eidetic memory, whatever you want to call it. And she is now part of the team. She's very pivotal in that with Tex, Will, and Kim, and some other folks in the team. So their mission is to figure out what's going on, but little they, they're on different missions. They don't even know what each one's working on, or are they even connected? Or if they're connected, how are they connected? So that's kind of my books. I'm writing my third book. Same kind of character, same team. When I write, I have to get the beginning just like I want it. I've written 5 or 6 beginnings for this new book. I've got to get that beginning right. But now I'll put a lot of stuff in the book, and I can use that later. But I have to get just right to be able to kind of move ahead a little bit. But I am a testament to you're never too old to recreate yourself. When I told some folks on LinkedIn that I wrote a book, somebody that I had worked with for 20 years ago asked me, he said, "Travis, I think this is the 4th time that you've reinvented yourself. You got to keep it active, keep your mind active." And I enjoy it. I never thought I would, or anybody that knew me for any length of time never thought ever that I would write a book. It wasn't in my DNA. You never underestimate yourself. You put your mind to it, you put your body to it, you can do it. You just got sit down or walk around or take a walk and try to figure some stuff out about if you want to write a book or a poem. When my granddaughter had leukemia, and I had never written a poem before in my entire life, and she was going to ring the bell, and I sat down and wrote a poem in like 5 minutes. And I don't even know I've never been able to write another poem. I don't even know what came over me. It's something, right? And I just wrote it, and when she rang the bell, I said it, read it out loud. And I don't know, something happens sometimes. So again, accomplish, put your mind to it and your body into it, and you can do it. Put pen to paper. You go, I'm trying to write a book, and I get so far, I get frustrated, or I get writer's block or whatever. Just start pen to paper, start writing. I'm what they call a pantser. I don't outline my books. I write free flow. So I try to outline, but I can't pay that much attention to it. So I do what they call a pantser. But I write. I don't write. I like to write. I like to walk like 4 or 5 miles in the morning, and I like to write after that because I think about the books when I do that. So I like to write in the morning when my mind is somewhat fresh. So I do like that, and I'll write for maybe an hour outside, listen to some music. I can write and listen to music at the same time. So who knows? But again, just start putting stuff, pen to paper. Just start hacking away, start writing some stuff. And get feedback, right? It's important to get feedback on your writing and be ready for the feedback. People out there, they review your book, they can tear it apart. And that's what they enjoy doing. But the feedback, but when you get good feedback, that makes you feel good. Like, I did do something. Or when somebody buys your book and you never met this person before, that is a tremendous feeling that somebody's going to spend some money on something that you created. Pick a time like you write. Don't force it. Like I've been writing this 3rd novel since November, and I've got 14 pages. But I'll be done by the time summer break is over. That's my goal, to have another book out next April or May timeframe. So just pick a time if you like it, write something down, and keep on doing it. And it's okay to be scatterbrained. I am the poster child for that. My office my wife is just highly organized, and I am like highly disorganized. But I know where everything's at. And when I say about scatterbrained, when I'm talking about writing a book, is sometimes I'll write the ending, right? I've come, oh, I want to put this ending on the book, or I'll write something in here, and I just keep a long Word document of all the stuff that I'm thinking about for that book. And I probably have 6 books, ideas that I've started writing on, and I finally chose this 3rd one. So again, scatterbrain's okay, but if you're organized, I don't know how you do it, but more power to you on that one. And if there's any questions at all, or comments, feedback, I'm ready.
I'll bring the microphone to you, and this is the library. You can say what you want. Questions, comments, or protest are appreciated.
I'm a boomer, so you can't hurt my feelings.
Any questions? To be a conversation starter, since I don't see any hands, but hopefully we'll see some hands, because some of the best questions I've ever heard came from the audience.
Yeah.
Has any federal agency contacted you and wanted to know where you got this information?
No, not yet, but I look outside all the time for black cars. No. I mean, I'm not privy to anything that anybody else isn't privy to. It's just when I look at something, a job, I'm like, what would I want my software? What do I want how do I want to be successful in my job? What would it take? Is it software? Is it some new capability or something? So that's what I kind of find in the book. And then I'd say, is that even possible? So in Flames of Deception, I'm like, it's a lot of satellite imagery and the software that you use to be able to analyze things. And I said, well, Newton's second law of physics, that'll work. So I did some research on that, and that's how some of the things with it works. And whether they have that capability now, I don't know. Don't even want to know, but it's just something I just come up with.
The reason I ask, it just seems like every day there's a major cyber attack somewhere in the United States. I mean, recently in the city of Dallas, can't even pay your water bill, or can't even check out books because of the cyber attacks. Questions, comments? You look like you have a question that's rolling around in your mind.
You mentioned Fort Knox.
Yes.
What was your role there, I guess, or what did you do? And do you still have any of the bricks?
Oh, wow. I'll tell you a story about that. So I quit high school in 11th grade. I thought I was smart enough. I was going to graduate my 11th year. And I quit high school on a Friday, October, I think 31st, Halloween. 17 years old, and Tuesday I was in basic training in Fort Knox. So that was my first soiree there, was in, it was called OSIT, a 13-week program for Armored Reconnaissance Specialists. Then, that was the whole of armor at the time. And then I went back, 1986. And I was an instructor at the armor school. And I helped write the curriculum for the new soldiers. So I was there about 3 years, and I went back to a line unit in Germany. So I spent a majority of my time in the Army in line units. From from a Jeep to a Humvee to a Bradley fighting vehicle to a 113. I was a left front seat observer in a helicopter, UH-1, UH-60. I've flown a Cobra gunship, ferrying back and forth. The pilot was in back. I was in front, let me fly a little bit. So I've done a myriad of things in the military that has helped me have a pretty good imagination when I want to start writing stuff. Yeah.
One of the things that I was impressed with, how you literally were on the line between Western Europe and Communist Europe. Mm-hmm. You were literally on the line as a monitor. Mm-hmm. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So when you think about somebody puts a fence up, you think it's to keep you out, right? The Iron Curtain and the way that the border was constructed on the East German side was to keep their people in. Because how they had their tank traps, our tanks could drive right up them. That's how they're angled. But their tanks couldn't. So it was to keep their people in, not to really keep us out. And there was, my wife is German, and where she's from is about 11 kilometers from the border. And I was the operations sergeant for the border camp for a while. So you would see like these towns that every day when it got dark, 6 o'clock or so, lights would come on. Nobody lived there. They go back off. Nobody lived there. Smoke coming out of the chimneys. So it's all deception, right? It's all to say, everything's going great. And, I was mainly on the Bavarian side, Bavaria, part of Germany. And you would think that the fence was right up on the border. Well, if you were unlucky enough to actually touch the fence, you're probably 10 meters inside of East Germany. And what would happen then is you would be on a plane to the United States the next day, back. That was verboten. So yeah, we did night and terrible weather conditions, but then it really kind of hit home after the wall came down, right? 1991, I believe, when you could go inside East Germany, and it was like the first color television presentation, where it was black and white, and then it was color, but it was reversed. West Germany was color, beautiful, beautiful houses. East Germany was all gray or black and slate roofs and buildings, and they're burning brown coal. It just stunk. Complete opposite. They were 40 years behind West Germany. That's what we did with the Marshall Plan, right? Rebuilt Germany. So it was really eye-opening. Now you really can't tell after all these years, but there's really sobering when people say, "Oh, communism." Well, you know what? That ain't so good, And I saw that it was just terrible from what I saw and what I could read and stuff like that.
Questions? Okay, we got one back here.
Yes. Do you believe in climate change, and is that in the books? Are you talking about that and how that affects everybody?
I don't really go into, my beliefs are not in the book, really. I just say, I kind of look at what's going on in the world and how people can take what's going on in the world and create havoc from it, or chaos. So I believe in weather, and I'm not for sure. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a fiction writer. But if I did believe in climate change, I wouldn't buy a multi-million-dollar house on the ocean.
Question?
Okay, so every author hopes to have like their books in a movie. Who would be your dream cast?
Well, if I was 30 years younger, it would be me. Now, great question. So, Tex would be Matthew McConaughey. Kim would be the actress from The Greatest Showman, the ballerina, that does the I don't know her name, that does the the wire and all that. And I think Tex or Will would have to be I think the guy that does I don't know too many actors. Dead Zone, the guy that does I think Dead Zone or something like that, whatever it's called. He would be the actor. But I even get asked a lot when I talk about the book, this should be a movie, because I don't. My books aren't about terrorists, right? They're things that new things that I think people are interested and want to read. So, good question. I only got one of the actors. Yeah.
How did you how did you address character development in your novels?
People ask, who is Tex? Or who is Will? And I think Tex is an amalgamation of me and my dad. Will, probably very similar to our son, in some respects. But I just kind of, and I wanted to create a character that was not only highly intelligent, but witty and funny. Because you get in these stressful situations and you want to be able to laugh. You want to be able to maybe take, just a nanosecond away from the stress and think about something else. So that he's kind of Will's kind of a comedian in some respects. And then as I write the book, I develop the characters more. And as I found out, as I write other books, I want to develop them even more and make them even better characters. So I start with, in Flames of Deception, I thought it was important for the characters to learn about themselves. Like, Will, I don't know anything about you. I've worked with you for 6 months. I don't know nothing about you. Tell me about yourself. Oh, I was born in Allen, Texas. So Allen, Texas is in the book. And it talks about him because she wants to know about him. And then as she starts to tell about her, something happens. So I kind of want to help them develop along the way and grow a relationship.
Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, out of the two books you've got out there now, and I'm already starting to hear which one you like better, but which one would you say that if I was only going to pick one to read, which one?
It depends on what you kind of like, but Flames of Deception, I think, is a good. This is my first book, so I'm kind of like it's my first book. And then this one, I think I have to be careful how I describe it because it's three things going on at the same time, but they all kind of congeal. But yeah, I like Flames of Deception because it's my first book, and I think it gets a good grasp of who the characters are.
Questions? Looks like you have a question. Okay, hold on.
The book that you're working on right now, is it the same characters?
It is.
Okay.
It is. And it's almost a sequel to Cobalt. Because I was at the end, things happen at the end, and I'm like, how do I want to start the next book? Oh, I got an idea. This is crazy. So I haven't then, but I put that aside because it's, I don't want to do that. And I keep on coming back to it. So I've already, okay, this is the one that I'm going to write next. So it's going to be somewhat, not necessarily a sequel, but it would be helpful for you to read this one to read the third one.
Questions, comments, protest? I will ask the last one. Do you have one? You're good.
No math questions. That's all I ask.
In the late 1950s, the CIA met with President Eisenhower and explained to him the most recent technological developments. Now, this is late 50s. And they showed him a picture that a satellite took of his farm. He had a farm. He obviously didn't run it while he was president, but he had a working farm. And the picture showed to the detail how many cows were in his farm. Now you can find a thimble on the ground from satellite imagery. And a number of murders have been solved because of satellite imagery. But General Eisenhower wrote in his memoirs that he realized at that point what he learned at West Point was no longer applicable. We were in a new world of military warfare. Can you elaborate on how his insights have unfolded?
Yeah, I think you can see it from today. I mean, even back when I was growing up, my uncle was in the Air Force, and he worked on the SR-71. And that thing's just, it can't even be matched right now. But it was able, I believe, to take photographs and get license plate numbers. Now, it's not necessarily capabilities of the camera and the film, but it's also the software that you use to be able to analyze it. Then you look at today about what can be picked up on satellites. I mean, you can go out there, Google Earth, right? You can use Google Earth right now and look at your house 5 years ago and then look at it today. Look at the changes of it. The different LiDAR, right? The different types of radar, the different types of imagery that you use to be able to look at what you want to look at. So now it's very focused on, I think, what your mission is and what you want to look at. You can use whatever the software is. I come up with technology in the book that I think if I had that job, that's what I would want it to do. And I call it Thoth. And Thoth is like, what's that? That's the god of knowledge from Egypt. That's how I came up with Thoth. And it's pretty cool capabilities. Again, I'm looking for the black cars out in front of my house. I haven't seen any yet. And I carry it forward in the book, in the next book, because I want to add capabilities to it. I mean, you know, modern warfare now is fought. People are in Las Vegas flying drones that are flying over the Middle East or Southeast Asia or the South China Sea or wherever, right? So technology is definitely, and then you got AI, right? That's coming on board. So
Well, I've noticed in my own house, you can count the leaves on the trees.
yeah,
Versus 10 years ago, you can just see it was a green glob. And now you can see, oh, that branch is
yeah.
grown.
I got interested in this whole geospatial stuff when my son joined the Army because I wanted to learn about it, and it's phenomenal. I was like, man, I need to go to college and get a degree in that. And I'm like, I don't like school, so I didn't go yet. But yeah, so just from my perspective, when I was, the 20 years that I was in the Army, what we had when I started to when I got out, the capabilities are totally different. Warfare is warfare, but the capabilities of what you're able to do to your enemy is greatly enhanced.
Any last minute questions, comments, protests? Okay, one more down here.
Thank you for coming. It's really
Well,
it's
thank you.
a
I
whole
thank
world.
everybody for showing
But
up.
I guess I
I'm
wonder
honored.
is does your son have that writing bug, or is he in the military? He's career military, or
My son was in the Army, but I didn't let him help write the book at all. I didn't even tell him about the book while I was writing it.
now
And there's reasons for that.
Would your 6th grade English teacher or 9th grade English teacher be very proud of you, or very surprised?
Miss Peoples. So I remember who it is. I remember her. I think they would probably be like, I never would have thunk it, But I think so. I mean, I even visited my mom and dad, and I left the book there. So yeah, something. They can read it when they're not doing nothing. But yeah. So I think so.
Travis Davis, thanks. Thank you, Allen Public Library patrons.
Thank you. And this is all my contact stuff. I do a weekly podcast, not weekly, but when I get to the podcast. That's my email, Facebook. Team Texarkana has a website. They have a presence. LinkedIn, TikTok, search author Eke. For anybody that is, you get my books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, online, Books A Million online, some other places. People that, happen to buy the book that are on our vast audience out in the world here, that if you're 15-mile radius of Allen and you get a book and you want me to sign it, just send me an email and I'll meet you somewhere and I'll sign your book. And so I just appreciate Tom. You had me here, and I'll tell everybody out there, Allen is a fantastic city. It's a beautiful city. You should come visit. So thank you.